Hey, we're back. Chapter 2. Okay, I like chapter 1. It's kind of interesting about Buck being such a big dog and taking up for the sleds and sold by Manuel. Oh, Manuel. Let's read on. Chapter 2. The Law of the Club. For 2 days and nights Buck neither ate nor drank. Shaking, he flung himself against the bars. The hunger was painful, but the thirst for water was torture. His throat was dry, his tongue was swollen, and his body burned with fever. He was glad for one thing. The rope was off his neck. Never again would a man get a rope around his neck. For in those 2 days and nights of torment, he was changed into a new animal, a raging beast. He was so changed that the judge himself would not have recognized him. The train workers were glad to see this fierce beast leave the train at Seattle. 4 men carefully carried the crate from the wagon into a small yard. A stout man with a red sweater came out and signed the book for the driver. Buck knew this was the next tormentor, and he hurled himself against the bars. The man smiled grimly and brought out a hatchet and a club. "You ain't going to take him out now?" the driver asked. "Sure," the man replied, prying the crate open with the hatchet. The 4 men who had carried the crate in quickly scattered and got atop a safe high wall to watch. Buck snarled, growled, and rushed at the sides of the crate. "Now, you red-eyed devil," said the man in the red sweater. When the crate was dashed open, he dropped the hatchet and shifted the club to his right hand. And Buck truly was a red-eyed devil, with hair bristling, mouth foaming, a mad glitter in his bloodshot eyes. Straight at the man he launched this 140 pounds of fury, in mid-air, just as his jaws were about to close on the man. He received a shocking blow. He rolled over, hitting the ground on his back and side. He had never been struck by a club in his life and did not understand. With a snarl that was part bark and more scream, he was again on his feet, and he launched into the air. And again the shock came, and he was brought crushingly to the ground. This time he knew it was the club, but a dozen times he charged, and a dozen times the club broke the charge and smashed him down. Buck crawled to his feet, too dazed to rush. He staggered limply about, the blood flowing from nose and mouth and ears. Then the man gave him a frightful blow on the nose. All the pain he had ever known was nothing compared with this. With a lion-like roar, he again hurled himself at the man. The man struck a final blow, and Buck crumpled up and went down, not completely senseless. "He can break a dog, that's what I say," one of the men on the wall exclaimed. "I'd rather break wild mustangs any day," was the reply of the driver, as he climbed on the wagon and started the horses. Buck watched each new dog pass under the club of the man in the red sweater, and he knew then that a man with a club was a lawgiver, a master to be obeyed, but never a friend. More strangers came who talked quietly and eagerly to the man in the red sweater. Money passed between them, and the strangers took one or more of the dogs away with them. Buck wondered where they went, for they never came back. And when his time came, a little wrinkled man who spoke broken English spotted Buck. "Hola!" he cried when his eyes lit up on Buck. "That one bully dog, eh? How much?" "300, and that's a bargain," said the man in the red sweater. "And you are paying with government money. You can afford that, eh?" Pereloot grinned. For so fine an animal, this was not a high price. The Canadian government could well afford such a dog. Pereloot knew dogs, and when he looked at Buck, he knew that this was 1 in 1,000. 1 in 10,000, he said to himself. Buck saw money pass between them. Pereloot also bought another dog, the good-natured Newfoundland named Curly, and he led the 2 dogs away. That was the last Buck saw of the man in the red sweater. As Curly and he looked in at the shoreline from the deck of the boat, it was the last he saw of the warm of the Southland coast.